Just 13% of Australian voters think Anthony Albanese is doing enough to address cost of living pressures, and only 1/4 believe the economy is being well managed. This is all according to industry polling. Joining me live now is research partner at SEC Newgate, Australia, David Stolper. Thanks so much for your time, David. Good to see you.
Hi, Laura. Great
You've
to be
done
here.
a bit of a deep dive on the mood of the nation, if you
That's
like.
right.
There's 10 points, so let's go through them all. First of all, the question that you've asked, Australia heading in the wrong direction. A clear majority think it is.
That's right. So we've seen a distinct downturn in the national mood just over the last 2 months. For the first time, we do have a clear majority of Australians who actually think the country is going in the wrong direction at 61%.
And government's taking the blame. So the perceived performance of governments actually taking credit, but also taking the blame when things go wrong. What was the finding there?
That's right. So we've seen a deterioration in government performance across all of the states and also nationally as well. So nationally, we've seen the federal government's performance drop by 7%, but also some large falls all across the country.
Voters want action on cost of living pressures, interest rates, housing affordability and crime.
Yep.
What did you find here?
Well, all of those things really. So these are the big ones really. So people are doing it tough, families are doing it tough. We've got rising prices in terms of grocery prices, electricity bills, housing affordability, particularly rental affordability, increasingly a priority there.
Growing pessimism about the economy. This is all not surprising, is it?
It's kind of wall-to-wall gloom, to tell you the truth. Yeah. So big changes this month. But as you mentioned, so most predict the economy is going to be worse in 3 months. Most predict that the economy is going to be worse in a year. We're still most likely to believe it's going to be better in 3 years, but that level of optimism has also been falling a bit.
More Australians experiencing financial pain?
Yeah. Quite distinct there. So we saw a 7% increase in the proportion of Australians who are experiencing financial difficulty, particularly women, people in casual work, middle-aged people, those paying a mortgage, those paying their rents and so forth.
So obviously, overall, the findings here from your research is that the national mood is pretty sour at the moment.
That's right. The mood is souring over the last 2 months.
All right. Okay. So let's go to some specific policy areas. We've talked a lot about the voice. You've also found that support for the voice, social issues and defence spending, they're all on the decline.
Yep. So they're amongst the priorities that have been dropping. So climate change we now see as a mid-tier issue compared to where it was the last federal election. Support for the voice has been widely reported. That's been falling quite significantly over the last couple of months. And also some smaller support for some of the lower order social issues as well and things that aren't rating so highly.
You mentioned climate change. This is also one of the key findings in this research. It's sliding as a priority. I mean, this is never a surprise. When cost of living and you can't afford to pay your electricity bills and mortgage and rent, climate change and action on climate change usually does slide down the priority list, and you confirm that.
Yep, you're exactly right. And you've seen these trends over the last 10, 15 years. It goes through phases of going up, going down. I think what's interesting in these results as well, though, is although concern with climate change is going down, there still is strong enthusiasm for the transition to renewables, most still supporting that. And if anything, people are more likely to be saying that it's going too slowly rather than too quickly. So those numbers are sliding just a little bit, but still holding up quite strong.
National obsession with the housing market continues, but what you found here is that people feel like it's a bad time to buy, rent or invest.
Absolutely. All those three things.
The housing market's still strong.
I know.
Go figure.
Exactly. So it's a strange time we're living in. Not a good time to do anything when it comes to housing, particularly not a good time to be renting a new property. That's the biggest challenge across the country, but also in some areas like Victoria and Melbourne, only 15% of people agreeing it's a good time to be renting in Melbourne.
Wow. Okay, so all of this, the gloom of the research you've found, we're all a bit nervous, pessimistic at the moment about where it's all heading. What do you do with this research and what should governments do, I guess?
Well, I think government will be very closely attuned to what the mood of the nation is. Some of these stresses we've been finding have been widely reported, but it is the degree of change. I mean, government has to take actions on these things. Certainly it's difficult when you're trying to manage the budget, engineer this economic slowdown, if you will.
Yeah.
But do it in a way that doesn't hurt people who are really struggling. I think just a bit of a tidbit, it's quite interesting that we're still not seeing a growth in the proportion of people who are really struggling financially. So those people who are really struggling to make ends meet, that's been stable at 11%, and I know there's been some targeted policies and so forth from government there.
Seem to be enjoying a European summer or Bali or something like that. I don't know.
Perhaps.
Let's. I just quickly want to hone in on the voice. This research found that only 43% of Australians support the Indigenous voice to Parliament. That's down from 52% in April.
Yep.
Why the change in those intervening months, do you think?
Look, we haven't gone into it in a lot of detail in this particular study, but I think there's a few factors at play there based on previous research we've done. I think certainly various Indigenous leaders coming out and being opposed to it, I think that has certainly hurt the Yes campaign. And I think also, in a way, it's a little bit of a victim of the times. People are prioritising other issues, far more strongly. So I think that could be playing into it a little bit. But there's a range of factors.
And
there.
Corporate Australia is really getting behind the voice, the Yes campaign. Might this change some minds in the big cities?
I don't know. I mean, you still would say, although support has been slipping, there still is more support than opposition, and a lot of people are still to make up their minds. So I think it's still too early to say whether it will or not get up.
We're a couple of months away. We don't even have a date yet.
Exactly right.
And we know that 3 months is a very long time in
Absolutely,
politics.
that's right.
Okay. Well, very interesting indeed, David. Thanks for taking us through the research.
No worries, my pleasure.